Morning, everyone. It's great to be here. So, as Herman said, my name is Claire, and I work for an organisation called On Our Radar. We're based in the UK, but we work globally. To date, we've worked in 14 countries around the world over the last 10 years. So we believe that people on the front lines of humanity's greatest challenges hold incredible insight, and that we're really missing out as a society globally because we don't value those experiences and we don't, make space for those voices and experiences to be heard and shared. So we really see our role as an organisation in working with communities to amplify those unheard voices so they can also be part of shaping our collective future. We do that through building reporter networks with communities. We design innovative sort of tech communication solutions to help those communities be heard. And we also have a media arm, so we co-produce award-winning media with the communities that we work with. And over the years, we've worked in partnership with a wide range of organisations, advocacy networks, humanitarian organisations, and government partners around the world. So when we think about change as an organisation, we look at it in two ways. So the first is our productions and media arm, where we co-produce powerful stories with communities in order to increase media diversity and influence public understanding. And then in our communities work, we provide consultancy, training, mentoring for community storytellers and organisations that want to listen better. And through that, we build the capacity at community level and also in organisations and increase the ability to understand and respond to communities' experiences through the way services and systems are designed. Over the years, having worked in many different communities around the world with very different needs, we have developed what we call this 5C model, which is a diagnostic tool that we use with all of our communities and partners to really understand the context that we're working in and the barriers to inclusive communications. So on the left-hand side, we have the sort of top 5 barriers that we've encountered over the years, and on the right, our tools for overcoming those. At the top is consent, because consent is absolutely key to everything we do. And when we talk about consent, it's not a one-time thing, it's not a tick box on a form, it's a conversation, it's a dialogue, and we check in throughout the work that we're doing to make sure people really understand the implications of sharing their stories, of sharing the stories of people around them, and at any time, make sure they understand that they can withdraw that consent. That's really critical. And at the end, we also have closure. Because often, we get so excited about these amazing stories that are being unearthed and the content that's being co-produced that we forget then to close that feedback loop and to return those stories to the communities they came from and to, hand them back over to them so that there is shared ownership and again, that sense of celebration because those stories do have a huge value. So in terms of the barriers, for us, the number one is conviction. It all comes down to trust and building trust with communities. And we're working with marginalised communities who have had a very broad range of almost entirely negative experiences. It really takes time, and you have to invest time and resource in building that trust. We always work with local partners, so locally based organisations who already hold those relationships, are there before we come in, and will be there after we leave, because it's irresponsible of us to just parachute in, do our thing, and then run away again. So we always work with trusted local partners. Co-design is key, so with those communities, we invite people to be part of the process. There's never an expectation that they will do it. It's absolutely voluntary. We also make sure that people are paid for the time and the energy that they invest in the reporting process as well. Capacity and confidence are fairly self-explanatory. We overcome those with training and mentoring. Our community reporter training has an online sort of self-paced offer. We deliver it in person. We have a version that works in low bandwidth settings. It's fully accessible to people with a range of disabilities. We have sign language interpreted ones. We have easy read versions. So accessibility is something that we really pride ourselves on. Connectivity is often digital connectivity, so that's those innovative tech solutions. Where possible, we work through existing platforms and products, but we also have our own platform, which enables us to work with communities at scale across multiple locations, multiple geographies with different connection issues. And craft is the final one. So that's where we bring in our production values and our sort of creative skills and expertise, and we wrap those around those community stories in order to deliver broadcast quality media for public platforms. So that's about elevating those raw lived experiences and putting them into a package or a format that is more familiar to mainstream audiences so that, you know, those stories and experiences land well. Ooh, not moving forward. So when I grandly said community reporting is a public good, in my head I had a definition of what a public good is, but it's occurred to me I should probably look it up as well. Pleased to say the two do in fact align, but a public good is a service or a commodity that's provided without profit to all members of society. And I'm sure many of you know that UNESCO see journalism as an essential public good. But in order for it to be a public good, in the truest sense of the word, journalism needs to operate under the conditions that enable independent, high-quality and trustworthy news and analysis, which obviously speaks to what these fine gentlemen were saying earlier. For us, community reporting, you know, is an alternative to mainstream media, and the idea is that actually we all can be reporters. We don't only have to be passive consumers of news, we can also create it ourselves. So sometimes it's known as participatory journalism, sometimes it's known as citizen reporting, but it's about us playing a more active role in gathering, recording and disseminating news and information. And it's often a response to the fact that for a number of reasons, mainstream media, legacy media, traditional media, doesn't get deep enough into society or can't get deep enough into communities because of that essential trust barrier that I spoke about previously. So by working in this way, it's a way to bring in, you know, that sort of more nuanced understanding of some of the issues that are happening at a community level and paint a more accurate picture about those. Mobile phones just transformed the world. Jeanette obviously earlier asked who in the room didn't have a mobile phone, and there wasn't a hand in the air. So, you know, mobile phones really have revolutionized the way that we consume news and the way that news is delivered to us. They really do control the information that we receive and share. And, you know, certainly I remember a time when mobile phones weren't a thing. So times have definitely changed. But that, you know, with that mobile phone, we now all have the tools that we need to be able to produce news, to share news at the touch of a button. And certainly for the communities that we're working with in very, you know, remote or rural parts of the world, access to mobile phones is truly revolutionary. In the training that we deliver, we talk a lot about the power of storytelling. And, you know, some of these tipping point stories, these stories that suddenly burst through into the collective consciousness and catalyse a whole social movement, you know, on their back. So recently we've been talking about examples from Iran, about the death of Masha, and the sort of response to that from the women, who much of which has been, you know, filmed and shared on mobile phones. You know, we've also talked about George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement, Me Too. All of these movements have been underpinned by this sort of drip, drip, drip of experiential stories from the public that have amounted into a sort of tipping point moment, and that has finally ignited public awareness. So we've done a lot of work in Sierra Leone over the years, and this gentleman here, Med, is one of our community reporters in Sierra Leone. Med started off talking in a reporting network around the impact of malaria, but actually was then thrust into the front line of the Ebola outbreak in 2014, when all of a sudden, you know, the borders closed, journalists couldn't get in, and there was a ready-made network of people in Sierra Leone who were already trained as community reporters, who were providing real-time data and information on the emerging situation. Med's continued to work with us in a number of ways over the years, and he's a really powerful advocate, I think, for why lived experience brings value to community reporting. So we're going to listen to his story briefly.
The place I grew up, and this is where I got my disability. I was not born disabled, but I got my disability here. I've been affected by the poliomyelitis that was present at that moment at the drainage where I was playing. If this environment is not protected, more children will become like me and even worse than me. So this is why I'm more concerned about this community. The composure of the community alone as a dumping site will tell you this is a rightful breed for malaria, because it's a dumping site for all the death from up the Thames. The drainage that is connected, that empties itself in our community, and so it's a worse site for malaria. Seeing friends who you know actually getting infected by the malaria parasite, and if you're not lucky, you're dead. But if you're lucky, maybe the treatment will make you survive. For us, we've been surviving. For others who are not lucky, they are dead now. When I was young, I missed out the whole of the academic year because of malaria. It even makes me to become furious, because if I wasn't sick, imagine what I would have been. I was happy to join the unheard team, because we need to say some of these things for people out there to see some of these problems. We need to report. You need somebody that is on the ground where the things are happening. I decided to be a citizen journalist, to be the voice of the voiceless. You get hidden stories that are not being told by the popular storytellers, because these are stories coming from the people who are actually affected by the problem itself. If we use the right channel and get our stories right, I believe it will help in the fight of malaria in these kind of communities, these local slum communities. My job will be done when malaria is eradicated out of Sierra Leone.
So that was a film that we'd made in partnership with Comic Relief, but Med has worked on a number of issues with us, and most recently has been reporting on challenging misconceptions around the COVID vaccine and the uptake of COVID vaccines in Sierra Leone. He's been working in a number of areas across the country and trying to sort of challenge some of those misconceptions. As a result of that, they've now produced a community radio show which has localised messaging that challenges and over-debunks those myths. So he's still out there doing the good work at community level. So we talk about different models of community reporting when we're talking training communities. So the first is the sort of longitudinal approach. So you're following a story over a period of time. And that also helps our reporters build their confidence and skills as they go. This story here was shot entirely on Dowda's mobile phone. And Dowda follows one of his neighbours, Ali, and his family through what's known as the hungry season in Sierra Leone. It's a really moving story. I'll share the presentation afterwards. The film's a little bit too long to show to you just now. But you know, you get a really raw personal insight into the challenges this family's living through, and a sense of that bigger contextual piece, that wider frame about some of the issues, systemic issues that are leading to them having these problems year in, year out. Deep dives we see as a way of exploring a topic in greater depth, and often where there's a topic which might be perhaps a little bit more contentious or harder for people to understand. So I thought I'd show you this clip here of something which is a really live issue in the UK at the moment, which is young black men's experience of being stopped and searched, particularly in London, but also across the country. And in this film, Anthony, Stefan and Emmanuel talk about their experience of being stopped and searched. So if you look at the UK media, most of the stories about stop and search are very negative about, young men like Anthony, Stefan and Emmanuel. You very rarely hear their perspective and their voices. They're just ignored. Also, is it possible to play that film? Thanks. We made this film with a partner called Revolving Doors, who used it in their campaign work with the police.
Ooh, I'm not gonna lie, I think the first time I got arrested was around 11, so stop and searches have been happening from 11 onwards. So yeah, I'm 25 now, so 14 years?
I've been stopped quite a lot that I don't know how much specifically. That is how many times I've actually been pulled over.
Sometimes I used to get stopped on average 8 times a day. You would think that's a lot for a little area, but they used to wait at the end of the road. After they stopped us, the next unit used to stop us.
I was walking down the high road, still in work company uniform. I was walking down the road from my house, if I'm correct, and I was literally digging into my pocket. And as I was digging into my pocket, there happened to be a squad car flying down the road. And the squad car was slowing down as my hands were going into my pocket. I could see from the police's view where it looked like I may have been discarding something, but what they didn't know is I was withdrawing my keys to go inside my property. And yeah, I basically got stopped and searched on my road in front of everyone. And yeah, it was very embarrassing, to be honest, because everyone knows that I go to work and I mind my business and I'm not affiliated with the wrong type of people. Going forward in life, it has led to me having a decrease in trust within the police force.
I'm coming home from a 12-hour shift and I have an hour-and-a-half ride home in the rain. I've then got pulled over by a police. He's then searched my pocket. He's then looked everywhere. And then after he searched and sees that I had nothing, I was already in a bad mood as it is, so I just jumped on my moped and rode off.
Your heart beats. Even though you know you've done nothing wrong, it's like, why are they bothering me now? What reason did they have to? Like, it makes you, even though you got nothing on you, and you hear this a lot of people would tell you this, even though you got nothing on you, a lot of people just run for the sake of it, because they don't want to have that conversation with them. Because even though you're not doing nothing, you get accused of something. If they say to you they want to talk to you, it means they want to stop and search you.
Well, I was spun around like I was doing a Michael Jackson Thriller ballroom dance, and literally I was whisked to the wall, so I was literally backwards towards the wall. And yeah, I was in shock, so I didn't know what to really say. Like, I was just surrounded by a whole sea of policemen.
I completely do not trust the police. I am sorry. I have no faith in the police. I would feel protected by a random person on the street before I even put my faith in police.
If you say to them, oh, I was on the way to go to a friend's house, then they will ask you again, what was you going to do? Then because your mind's running different scenarios in your head, you're thinking, oh, what are they trying to do? You might mess up on the question that they already asked you, then they take you back for a strip search. It's almost like they want you to be guilty, and when you're not guilty, they're trying to find a route to go down to make you guilty.
I'm not saying that the whole trust has gone down, but I would say, because sometimes you wonder, are they doing this on purpose, or is this quota? Like, what is going on? Like, do you really need to stop someone in their work uniform who's minding their own business? Everyone wears black jackets, everybody wears dark tracksuits. Does it have to be a specific person that needs to be stopped?
What gets said is, you fit this description. But what is the description? Being black. That's what I say to them. Is being black your description? Then they say to me, oh, a robbery happened in the area. Or we can smell cannabis. That's why we stopped you. It's never the truth. It's never the truth for the reason.
It's supposed to be a free country. People are supposed to be able to dress however they want to dress. Not everybody that's dressed in a tracksuit is selling drugs.
You know, sometimes you just gotta get on with it, because if you start kicking up a huff and puff, I'll be down in the cells before I even know it, and I really want to be going home instead of looking at a 6x8 cell, you know? So, you know, sometimes you just got to take it on the chin like Mike Tyson and keep it moving.
So there you go. Voices you never hear, certainly not on the 9 o'clock news. Perhaps you might hear them on TikTok, where I will be getting most of my news from after this morning's session. I'm not going to show you this one, but this is just another great example from our work. We've got a really strong network of people with experience of homelessness who we've been working with for a number of years. They're currently making a podcast about recovery and what it means to recover from addiction, from abuse, from being homeless, from living on the streets. And in this short animation, they also talk about their challenges accessing health support and housing services, and the stigma and discrimination they face on a daily basis in doing that. So I think I've run out of time, but I just wanted to, on the theme of today, talk about what we say to our reporters about verifying stories, because we're very clear, we're not training them to be professional journalists. We're training them with some basic skills so that they can tell their own stories. So it's all about stopping and pausing, not pressing send immediately, checking your sources, double-checking those sources, making a search and asking people where they got their information from. And then finally, this is where we see the value in community-led storytelling. It's not either or, it's both. It builds and rebalances power with communities, it increases transparency and accountability in real time. It provides that sort of unique insight and access that traditional media often struggles to get. And it really increases diversity of experience and representation, which is critical in tackling these huge social issues that we're all living through and trying to address at the moment.